Hey friends, my name is Julie and welcome back to our farm. We're going to continue our series on raising meat birds. They're at about 4 weeks old. We're getting them out on pasture and we're going to show you how we do it. So why do we pasture our chickens in the first place? Well, for one, it eliminates the need for bedding and dealing with their manure. This way they spread their manure along our pastures and help us fertilize. Second, it's really good for the birds. They can get up to 25% of their diet by foraging for grass, weeds, bugs, and they really enjoy it. It gives them something to do during the day. Also, all that green material that they're eating lends itself to the nutrition of the meat. So it'll increase the omega-3 profile, and it'll increase the vitamin E and vitamin D, as well as the access to sunlight that they have when they're out in these tractors. That will increase the vitamin D in the subcutaneous fat of these chickens, and in turn you will eat that in your diet, and we all need some more vitamin D. So it increases animal happiness, it increases pasture fertility, better manure management, it increases the taste and the nutrition profile of the meat. So it's a win all around. These Cornish cross meat chickens are a little over 4 weeks old. And you can see they're huge now. They're almost outgrowing our big brooder. At about 2 weeks, we have to move them from our small brooder just because there's no more room. We try to keep them in there as long as we can because it is a warm, nice environment for them while they're tiny. But as soon as they start to get some adult feathers, they can upgrade to this bigger size, have some more space, and have a little better airflow. As we increase the space that we give these birds, we also have to increase the size of their feeders and waterers. We don't want to be filling them all the time. We try to fill them once a day, twice a day maximum. So we've got a 5-gallon waterer in there, and we've got, I believe this is a 22-pound feeder. And filling this up once a day and lasts them throughout the day. It's recommended for these birds to keep them on a 12 on, 12 off feeding schedule. And what I mean by that is that you want them to have free access to food for about 12 hours of the day, and then a lot of people will completely remove that food for the other 12 hours. What we kind of do is try to judge how much they're gonna eat in a day, fill the feeder to about that, and in the morning it'll be empty and we'll refill it. If I see any signs of lethargy or overeating, if I ever had animals succumbing to heart attack or anything like that, then we would adjust that and reduce the frequency of food available to them, but luckily we've never had any problems with that. At the same time, we're reducing the protein concentration of their feed. We do this for a couple of reasons. One, they don't need that high 22 to 20% protein anymore. They've gone through that exponential growth stage of life, so it can be reduced to about an 18% protein at this point. Percent protein is the largest factor in the cost of your feed, so you're going to save yourself a bit of money by making that reduction. At around 3 to 4 weeks of age, we also switch our meat birds to a soy-free diet. We get this custom milled at a local feed mill here in North Carolina. The reason we switch to soy-free at this age is that we don't like a lot of soy in our diet, neither do our customers. We actually have quite a few customers that have severe soy allergies and will have a reaction to most meat or eggs that you can buy at the store. So they have a hard time finding good quality proteins that don't contain soy residue. Now, we would love to raise our birds soy-free from start to finish, and we have tried that. We've played around with this diet regimen a few times, and we found that by starting these birds that are bred and designed to be raised on a soy and corn diet, by raising them that way for the beginning of their life and getting through that initial chick period when they're going through exponential growth, we get that great weight gain and feed conversion. But if we switch them by 4 weeks to that soy-free diet, that full month allows a good washout period. We hear from our customers that have these severe soy allergies that they don't react when they eat our chicken. So we know that that's a sufficient washout period to not have a reactive amount of soy residue in the meat. Around a week before you want to put your birds on pasture, you want to wean them off of the heat lamp. And this for us is at about 3 weeks of age. This will encourage thicker feathering, so they'll be more insulated when they do go out on pasture, and remove the need of running extension cords out to your tractor. They'll be able to keep warm on their own if you encourage that feathering ahead of time. You want to choose a dry, warmer period of time to put your birds out on pasture. You want that transition to be as stress-free as possible. We really could have gotten these birds out maybe a week earlier than we are, but we had a cold snap at night. It was getting into the low 40s, and I didn't want to risk having them pile up and be really stressed out their first time out on pasture. So we waited for a warm night. It's gonna be in the 60s tonight, and it's warm and dry, and it's beautiful out. So it's the perfect time to get them out into this tractor.
Now comes the best part of moving chickens to pasture. Did I say no?
When you're holding or moving these birds, you don't want to hang them by their legs like you would a layer chicken, and you really want to tuck their wings. They can very easily hurt themselves if you don't protect them. Herding the last few out of here. Chicken, chicken. You're all right, guys. You're all right. We've got all the chickens successfully moved to the tractor without too much stress. They always get a little bit worked up. Everybody's in there safely. We make sure there's no big holes around the bottom that they can squeeze out of. We're gonna provide them with the same feeder and water that they had in the brooder, so that that's something that they're familiar with. These guys have only been in here for a few minutes and they're already acting like they're so much happier than the brooder. They are actively pecking away at the grass and the bugs and the dirt. They're exploring their new territory. They're grooming themselves. They seem pretty psyched about this move. We're gonna keep a close eye on them for the rest of the day. We're not gonna move them for the first 24 hours that they're in here to allow them to get acclimated to being on grass in their new environment. But then after that, starting tomorrow, we will move them twice a day to fresh grass. And they will make quite an impact with their manure fertilizing everywhere that they go. Any major change with your birds can cause some stress, and that can also mean a drop in their immune system. This is the time that you really want to watch for any weakness, anybody that's not eating well or performing as well. Some things to really watch out for at this point are coccidia, especially if it's going to be wet in the area you're putting them in. We try to mitigate the risk of coccidia or other diseases by putting them in a clean environment, moving the tractor twice a day to maintain a clean environment, keeping their water nice and clean, not allowing them to drink from puddles. And I'll also add a little bit of apple cider vinegar to their water during this time period, or if I see any diarrhea, which is the first sign of coccidia. Some other things to watch out for are respiratory diseases. These usually manifest with some swollen eyes first, and you'll see the bird not going to the feeder or being a little bit lethargic. If I see a bird that's exhibiting disease that they could possibly spread to the rest of the flock, or that's gonna hinder their growth performance, I will separate them. Usually we'll move them back to a clean brooder system, and we'll really keep a close eye on them. Keep the food and water close, keep it a little bit warmer for them until they recover or until it's time to process them. Another thing you can do to mitigate the stress of moving is to not actually move the tractor the first 24 hours they're in there. Just give them a day to settle in, to being on grass, being in a new environment, to having a little more ventilation, possibly some more drafts than they're used to. They just need a little time to acclimate. And then the first time that you do move the tractor, expect them to be bad at it. It's actually easier to do it with two people. One would stand in the back and kind of direct them forward. Otherwise, you're just gonna run them over the first few times you do it. If you're allowing them to run out of food during the night, what you can do is set the feeder just outside the door, and that will attract them, especially if they're hungry. And that can encourage them to move to the front of the tractor as you pull it forward. But really within the first few days of you moving it slowly and just letting them get the routine down, they will do that on their own. Now there are a bunch of different styles of chicken tractors that you can use. We prefer to go with the hoop house style for a number of reasons. It can be made with PVC and hardware cloth or cage wire, which keeps it very light. It's easy for someone like me to move very easily. It also, the PVC allows some flexibility to the structure, so when you're moving over uneven ground, it will mold to the ground a lot better than wood frame will. And we also like the height of the hoop house structure so that we can actually walk in there and pick up birds if we need to and examine them or help them if they get run over when we're moving it. It just makes everything a lot more accessible inside the tractor. Now with this lightweight PVC and cage wire design and the open floor bottom, we do have to worry about predators. Most likely they will dig under and snatch the birds that way. And we have had that happen in the past. So what we've done to help with that is set up a little bit of a hot wire around our tractor. So we've attached these extra long plastic insulators with some zip ties all around the tractor. And then we've attached poly wire to the insulators. And then we can come with our portable solar charger and we can attach it right to that wire, turn it on. We typically only turn it on at night. Another thing that we do to help with the risk of predation on these guys is we tend to keep them close to the house. We have quite a bit of garden space and pasture right around our home site where we want to fertilize that as well. This area is largely patrolled by our dogs, by us. There are lights everywhere. We can be pretty confident that predators aren't going to come into this area. We do sometimes take birds up to our far pastures and they're at a little bit more risk. We try to only do that with our laying hens or our larger turkeys, and they're up on roosts at night. And that does help a little bit with predators being tempted to try and grab them underneath. You could also put a poultry net all around these guys. Guardian animals are a really good option. I know a lot of people will keep a guard goose with their broiler chickens, and that seems to work really well too. So we hope this video helped you on your meat bird raising journey. And if you'd like to see how we got started with these guys as day-old chicks, check out our video right here.